carved stone walls that predate the pyramids, hieroglyphics that shouldn't exist on this continent, chambers built into solid rock with astronomical precision that modern engineers can't replicate. These aren't legends from Egypt or Peru. They're in the Australian outback right now, and nobody can explain who built them. For decades, archaeology has told us Aboriginal Australians were nomadic hunter-gatherers with no stone architecture. But scattered across this continent are structures that contradict that narrative. Walls aligned to solstices, underground complexes requiring knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, stone arrangements mirroring celestial patterns from thousands of years ago. Some archaeologists refuse to study them. Others have had careers destroyed for suggesting they're older than official history allows. Welcome to 12 ancient structures in Australia that challenge everything we think we know. Number 1. The Gosford glyphs near Sydney. Deep in Brisbane Water National Park, north of Sydney, hundreds of Egyptian hieroglyphics cover sandstone walls in a hidden gorge. We're not talking about modern graffiti or amateur carvings. These glyphs show the cartouche of Pharaoh Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid, alongside detailed inscriptions describing an expedition to Australia over 4,000 years ago. The inscriptions tell a remarkable story. An Egyptian expedition led by Lord Jess Ebb and his brother Nefertiru became shipwrecked on the Australian coast. Nefertiru died from a snake bite, and the survivors carved these glyphs to document their journey and mourn their loss. The detail is extraordinary. Specific grammatical structures that weren't understood until modern Egyptology. References to Australian wildlife that Europeans wouldn't encounter for another 3,000 years. Mainstream archaeologists call it a hoax from the 1970s. But researchers who've studied ancient Egyptian language point out something disturbing. The grammar includes archaic forms that weren't decoded until the 1990s. The hoaxer would have needed access to research that didn't exist when these glyphs were supposedly carved. The sandstone around the glyphs shows weathering patterns consistent with extreme age. Trees growing near the site have roots that wrap around the carved surfaces, suggesting the glyphs existed before the trees, which are over 200 years old. And here's what makes this even stranger. In 1922, before the Gosford glyphs were widely known, farmers near Kariong found 2 Egyptian scarabs in the soil nearby. These artifacts disappeared into a private collection before they could be properly dated. Number 2. The Kariong stone arrangement in New South Wales. Less than a kilometre from the Gosford glyphs sits something even more inexplicable. A massive stone platform with walls extending over 40 metres, built from precisely cut sandstone blocks, weighing several tons each. The blocks interlock without mortar, using a technique called ashlar masonry, the same method used in ancient Egypt and Peru. Aboriginal elders from the local Darkinjung people say their ancestors didn't build it. Their oral traditions speak of it being there when their people first arrived in the area, placed by beings they call the Sky People. European settlers documented the structure in 1850, describing it as ancient even then. Archaeologists from the University of Newcastle examined the site in 2004. Their ground-penetrating radar revealed something nobody expected. The stone platform sits above a chamber carved into the bedrock below. The chamber extends at least 10 metres underground, with walls showing tool marks that don't match any known Aboriginal or European cutting techniques. Access to the chamber was deliberately sealed with stones weighing over 3 tons each. Someone wanted to make sure whatever was inside stayed hidden, or that whatever was outside couldn't get in. The university team applied for permits to excavate, but the New South Wales government denied them. The official reason given was protection of potential Aboriginal heritage sites. But researchers involved in the project say they were warned to drop their investigation entirely. Number 3. The walls at Gympie in Queensland. In the hills outside Gympie, 200 kilometres north of Brisbane, a terraced stone wall complex stretches for over half a kilometre through the rainforest. The walls stand over 2 metres tall in places, constructed from precisely fitted stones that create perfect right angles and alignments. When Europeans first settled the area in 1867, the walls were already ancient and overgrown. Chinese gold miners working the region claimed the walls looked identical to agricultural terraces in China's Yunnan province, structures known to be over 3,000 years old. But here's the problem. Aboriginal Australians in this region practice burning and clearing, not stone terrace agriculture. In 1975, archaeologist Elaine Brown conducted the first systematic study of the site. She found stone tools embedded in the wall construction that carbon dated to over 2,000 years old. But more disturbing was what she found in the soil layers beneath the walls, evidence of smelting. Not just simple fire pits, but organised metallurgical work involving high temperatures and slag consistent with bronze or copper production. Aboriginal Australians didn't smelt metal. Europeans didn't arrive until the 1800s. Someone else was conducting advanced metallurgy in Queensland 2,000 years ago. Brown's research was published in a small archaeological journal, then systematically removed from university archives. When she tried to return to the site in 1980, she found the walls had been partially demolished and the area declared off-limits by the Queensland Parks Authority. Number 4. The stone chambers at Malam Bimi. Hidden in the Byron Bay hinterland near Malam Bimi, a series of underground chambers are carved directly into solid basalt rock. The chambers connect through precisely engineered tunnels, some extending over 30 metres into the hillside. The ceiling height remains exactly 2.1 metres throughout, suggesting intentional design rather than natural cave formation. What makes these chambers extraordinary is their acoustic properties. Sound resonates at specific frequencies inside each chamber, creating harmonic effects that researchers compare to ancient sound chambers in Egypt and Malta. When certain tones are played inside, the basalt walls vibrate at frequencies that match the Schumann resonance, the electromagnetic frequency of Earth itself. Local Bundjalung elders say their people use these chambers for ceremony, but their traditions clearly state they didn't create them. The chambers were already ancient when their ancestors arrived, built by the Juravanggi, a race of people who lived in the area before the last ice age, over 12,000 years ago. In 2008, a team from Southern Cross University attempted to date the chambers using optically stimulated luminescence, a technique that measures when rock surfaces were last exposed to sunlight. The results suggested the chambers had been sealed for at least 8,000 years. But there's a problem with publishing those results. They would require rewriting the entire timeline of human habitation in Australia. Number 5. The stone arrangements at Wurdi Youang in Victoria. In volcanic plains west of Melbourne, a stone circle arrangement extends over 50 metres in an egg-shaped pattern. 100 stones carefully positioned to align with the sun's movements throughout the year. The layout marks equinoxes and solstices with precision matching Stonehenge, but geological evidence suggests this site is far older. Astrophysicist Ray Norris from CSIRO determined the stones track solar movements and stellar positions. The arrangement aligns with setting points of specific stars as they appeared over 10,000 years ago. If those alignments were intentional, Wurdi Youang predates the pyramids by 6,000 years. The Wathaurong people consider this sacred, but their oral traditions don't claim they built it. They speak of stones arranged by ancestors who witnessed the flooding of the Great Southern Plain when sea levels rose after the Ice Age 11,000 years ago. Weathering patterns on the stones match exposure to conditions that haven't existed in Victoria for 8,000 years. Number 6. The subterranean complex at Lake Mungo. In the remote Willandra Lakes region, archaeologists excavating around Lake Mungo in 1974, discovered something they still don't understand. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a network of chambers and tunnels carved into subsurface clay layers. The complex extends 300 meters, with regularly spaced chambers connected by passages maintaining consistent dimensions. The discovery happened during excavation of Mungo Man, one of Australia's oldest burials dated to 42,000 years ago. While mapping stratigraphy, researchers noticed anomalies suggesting human modification. Someone had excavated an underground system in soft clay. Then the complex was buried by geological processes. The chambers were carved into clay deposited during a wet period that ended 20,000 years ago. Fill material inside contained charcoal fragments, carbon dated between 15 and 18,000 years old. The layout doesn't match any known Aboriginal structure. The passages are too uniform, chambers too regularly spaced. Some researchers suggest storage for food or water, but dimensions seem wrong. Others point to acoustic properties. Each chamber resonates at different frequencies. Number 7. The stone walls at Wallaby Gap in New South Wales. Deep in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney, a stone wall construction site sits abandoned mid-project. Massive sandstone blocks weighing over 5 tons are positioned as if ready for placement. Others lie partially shaped, showing advanced stoneworking techniques. The site covers 2 hectares with foundation trenches dug into solid rock and walls rising to 3 meters in some areas. The site appears abandoned suddenly. Stone-cutting tools lie scattered. Half-finished blocks sit as if workers simply stopped and walked away. The local Gundungura people have no oral traditions about building stone walls and say their ancestors found the site already abandoned. Carbon dating of charcoal in foundation trenches returned dates around 3,000 years old. But the stone-cutting techniques don't match Aboriginal tools or methods. Precision cuts, uniform dimensions, and metal tool marks suggest technological sophistication that shouldn't exist in Australia 3,000 years ago. In 1992, ABC documentary crews filmed the site showing inscriptions on blocks, geometric patterns unlike any Aboriginal rock art. When they returned 3 years later for follow-up, the inscribed blocks had vanished. Rangers claimed they were removed for protection, but no records exist of where they were taken. Number 8. The astronomical alignment at Wura Wilbur in Northern Territory. In Arnhem Land, a stone arrangement marks a position where multiple celestial alignments converge with mathematical precision. 3 standing stones over 4 meters tall create sight lines tracking specific stars, summer solstice sunset, and maximum northern moonrise. The precision to achieve all 3 alignments from a single observation point requires sophisticated astronomical knowledge. The Yolngu people consider these stones part of their dreaming narratives about creating the sky and placing stars. When astronomer David Frew analysed alignments in 2003, he discovered the stellar alignment doesn't match current star positions. It matches positions from 13,000 years ago, accounting for precession of Earth's axis. If this alignment was intentional, someone in northern Australia possessed advanced astronomical knowledge during the last ice age. They understood stellar precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, changing apparent star positions over thousands of years. This knowledge wasn't rediscovered until Greek astronomer Hipparchus documented it in 130 BCE. The stones are granite, but the nearest granite outcrop is 40 kilometers away across rough terrain. Someone transported these massive stones and erected them at a location marking multiple celestial alignments. The engineering to transport and erect 4-meter granite pillars suggests an organized society with significant labor resources and technical knowledge. Number 9. The submerged structure off Point Samson. In 1997, a commercial diver working on pipeline inspection off Point Samson in Western Australia reported stone walls on the ocean floor. The structure sat in 30 meters of water consisting of stacked rectangular stones forming right-angle corners extending over 50 meters along the seabed. Marine archaeologist Philip Holden investigated in 1999. His survey revealed walls, platforms, and paved areas constructed from shaped stones showing no evidence of natural formation. The structure's position on the continental shelf suggested it was built on dry land, then submerged when sea levels rose after the last ice age. Using sea level change data, researchers determined the site would have been above water 8,000 years ago. This creates an impossible situation for conventional archaeology. Aboriginal Australians during that period were supposedly nomadic hunter-gatherers without stone architecture. Yet here sits substantial construction, requiring significant labour and organisational capability. The Western Australian Museum applied for funding to conduct extensive mapping and dating. Their application was denied without explanation. When Holden returned in 2002 to continue research independently, the area had been declared a restricted zone by the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. No reason was provided, and access requests have been consistently denied. Number 10. The carved chambers at Canavan Gorge. Within sandstone cliffs of Nitmiluk National Park near Canavan, chambers have been carved into rock faces high above the Canavan River. The chambers aren't natural caves. They show deliberate excavation with flat floors, squared corners, and consistent ceiling heights. Access requires climbing sheer rock faces or using ropes, yet inside, researchers found evidence of prolonged occupation. Smoke deposits on ceilings, carved seating along walls, and small holes drilled at regular intervals around chamber perimeters. The drilling pattern suggests some kind of mounting system, as if structures were anchored to walls. The Jawoyn people have stories about these chambers. They speak of ancient people who could fly, beings from the stars who carved homes into cliffsides where they could watch the sky. The Jawoyn say their ancestors learned ceremony and law from these sky people before they departed, leaving the chambers empty. In 2006, archaeologist James Cohen obtained permission to study one chamber. He found charcoal deposits, carbon, dated to over 6,000 years old. More interesting was what he found in rock dust accumulated on the floor. Mixed in the sediment were microscopic metal particles, suggesting whoever carved these chambers used metal tools 6,000 years ago in a region where metallurgy shouldn't have existed. Number 11. The aligned stones at Canavan Gorge. Deep within Canavan Gorge in central Queensland, a linear arrangement of stones extends 300 metres along a cliff top. The stones are positioned in a precise straight line, each measuring 1 metre in height and spaced exactly 12 metres apart. 27 stones creating a formation running directly north to south with less than 1 degree deviation. The alignment points directly at Owenpelly in the Northern Territory, over 1,500 kilometres away. At Owenpelly, another linear stone arrangement exists pointing southeast toward Carnarvon. If you draw lines connecting these sites, they form part of a larger pattern, including at least 4 other stone arrangements across northern and central Australia, all precisely aligned over distances exceeding 1,000 kilometres. Creating such alignments requires accurate surveying across vast distances and methods of maintaining bearing over terrain including mountains, deserts, and dense forest. The knowledge suggests sophisticated mathematical and navigational capabilities. Yet, these stones existed long before European surveying equipment reached Australia. Aboriginal elder Willie Gordon from the Ngunnawal people says the stones mark song lines, ancient paths connecting sacred sites across the continent. But he acknowledges the people who first placed these stones had knowledge that has been lost. His people maintain the sites and remember the songs, but the original purpose of such precise alignment across impossible distances remains a mystery predating their oral traditions. Number 12. The Magnetic Stone Circle at Mungo National Park. Near the famous Mungo Man burial site, a circular arrangement of stones creates a magnetic anomaly so strong that compasses spin wildly within its boundaries. The circle measures exactly 32 meters in diameter, formed by 48 stones embedded at regular intervals. Each stone contains high concentrations of magnetite, a naturally magnetic iron oxide. Magnetite isn't found naturally in the Willandra Lakes region. The nearest magnetite deposits are over 600 kilometers away in South Australia. Someone transported 48 magnetic stones across impossible distances and arranged them in a perfect circle that creates a measurable disruption to Earth's magnetic field. In 2011, geophysicist Sarah Johnson mapped the magnetic properties of the circle. She found the stones weren't randomly placed. Each stone is oriented with its magnetic pole in a specific direction, creating a pattern that amplifies the collective magnetic field at the circle's center. The precision to orient each stone correctly suggests the builders understood magnetic fields and could detect them without modern instruments. Aboriginal elders say the circle marks a ceremonial ground where the veil between the physical world and the dreaming is thin. They speak of strange lights appearing within the circle at night and electronic devices malfunctioning when brought too close. Johnson documented several instances of equipment experiencing unexplained failures during her survey work. Her magnetometer recorded field fluctuations she couldn't explain with conventional geology. So where does this leave us? 12 sites scattered across Australia that challenge the accepted narrative of human history on this continent. Structures requiring astronomical knowledge, stoneworking techniques, and organizational capabilities that supposedly didn't exist when they were built. Some have been studied extensively, then deliberately buried in forgotten archives. Others remain restricted, kept away from researchers who might ask uncomfortable questions. The mainstream archaeological community insists these sites are either natural formations, recent constructions, or misinterpretations of conventional Aboriginal artifacts. But that explanation requires ignoring the dating evidence, dismissing the testimony of traditional owners, and pretending that precision astronomical alignments happen by pure accident. What were these structures? Who had the knowledge and capability to build them? And perhaps most importantly, why does the story of advanced ancient civilizations in Australia make so many people uncomfortable? These aren't fringe theories or wild conspiracy fantasies. These are real places you can actually visit. Physical evidence that sits in the Australian landscape right now, waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Should proper funding be allocated to thoroughly excavate and study these sites, or does leaving them mysterious serve someone's interests? Why have so many research projects been shut down when they got too close to proving these structures are far older than officially accepted? Write your honest thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation that needs to happen in Australian archaeology. If you want more investigations into Australia's hidden history and suppressed archaeological sites, subscribe now so you don't miss the next documentary. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.